In a sport built on speed and chaos, few people can dig deep and find the human story inside the helmet. Kristen Beat has made a career of doing exactly that. She's one of the most talented and knowledgeable voices in motorsports, a journalist and a broadcaster who's covered everything from Supercross to American flat track to NASCAR and everything in between. But what makes Kristen so special isn't just her presence on camera. It's her ability to connect, to listen, to find the heartbeat of a story. Raised in a racing family, she's spent her life around the sound of engines. And the engine that drives her is one of curiosity. A determination to understand the mindset behind the people who risk it all for the love of the sport. In this episode, we talk about the power of following your calling. We explore what it means to be a woman carving a space in a male-dominated world, the lessons she's learned from the athletes that she interviews, and the importance of staying grounded in gratitude and purpose. This is Kristen Beat. Now let's dive in. As someone who's been pushing hard my entire life, as a rider, a creative, and an entrepreneur, I've learned that performance isn't just about effort. It's about recovery, clarity, and taking care of your body. That's why I've made wellness a top priority. And one thing that stayed most consistent in my routine is the Echo Flask, a water bottle that infuses your water with molecular hydrogen, improving cognitive function, reducing oxidative stress, increasing natural energy, aiding in muscle recovery, and boosting mitochondrial function, which means longevity and vitality so that I can continue doing what I love to do for life. And you get all of this without the crash, inflammation, and long-term damage of the toxic, sugary energy drinks that dominate our industry. Now I know what you might be thinking. Doesn't water already have hydrogen? Technically, yes, but it's bound to oxygen as H2O. Your body can't absorb it in the same way. So the Echo Flask uses a high-end electrolysis membrane to split the hydrogen from oxygen and infuse the unbound molecular hydrogen into the water, making it more bioavailable and incredibly powerful for your health. This isn't woo-woo stuff. It's science, with over 1,500 studies behind it and more than 20 years of research. It's been a game changer for me. And if you care about longevity and performing at your best, this is completely worth it. Grab your Echo Flask now at echowater.com/ridebeyond and receive a special discount just for listeners of this show. That's echowater.com/RIDEBYND. Welcome to Ride Beyond, where we go beyond the ride and into what matters. In this podcast, you'll find meaningful conversations with people who live with passion, chase freedom, and remind us what it means to live fully. The motorcycle is our connection, but the stories are what take us beyond.
Here we go. This is sick though.
It's kind of
awesome.
nice. Usually, I've been doing these through the summer and it's been so hot. I've had to run the AC unit and it's super loud. And this is the first day that it's cool enough we can do it without the AC.
The weather has finally turned in North Carolina, but every time I say that, we end up getting an Indian summer where a couple months from now we'll have 2 raging weeks of heat and then we go back to winter. So
yeah, it's beautiful here though.
It's super pretty.
I love it.
It's so pretty and you get all 4 seasons. And
did you grow up here?
No, so we grew up in San Diego. And then I moved out here right after I graduated college for a job with NASCAR. And I have not looked back. My brother now lives here. He's 10 minutes from me. My parents moved out here. They came to visit once and they were like, oh, we're moving here. It's
no
sick.
way.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a lot more for what you get in San Diego. And then also the accessibility to trail riding, to motocross. It's just when we were in San Diego, the closest track was Pala or Barona Oaks. And you only have 2 tracks to ride. Out here in North Carolina, there's 5 or 6. And you, again, way more trail riding, which is kind of what our family's into. So
yeah, you grew up in a motorsports family. And you even rode yourself and raced a little bit.
Yeah. And then put it down because my body and athleticism just wasn't there. I thought I was more talented than I actually was.
Same. I still ride for fun, but I don't really race anymore or anything. You know?
I've really picked up trail riding in the last couple of years. I started covering endurocross maybe 5 years ago. And by no means do I do indoor endurocross. That's so gnarly. But it opened my eyes to how much fun I could have trail riding again. And I've it's fun.
So fun. How did growing up in this motorsports family, I know your dad raced, you raced, your brother, your mom shot some photography.
My mom used to take photos. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
a really good photographer for a long time.
How did those worlds of like racing and photography shape your love for motorsports storytelling?
Ooh, I think it was the culture, the family, the community, because it's so different than a football or baseball or basketball. Because my family also, we played normal sports too, which I find very rare. In motorsports, a lot of people that I meet only did motorsports, but my family had my brother playing water polo and like surfing, and we were doing so many different, my brother skateboarded, my dad built us a half pipe in the backyard. Like we had a very action sports community driven lifestyle, but I always gravitated towards motorsports because to me, it was so dimensional in that it's not just the body, it's not just the brain, it's a team of people surrounding you, building out a machine that will complement the body and the brain. So for me, the complexities of this sport, when you also marry it to the tracks that you're on and the locations that you visit, I mean, it's just so much to cover. And I am very all cylinders. So for me, I just always gravitated towards that kind of community.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about like how dynamic it is compared to like
Baseball or basketball.
It's like it's a lot on the rider's ability, but there's also a lot to do with the equipment, and that comes down to having a good mechanic.
It's a team.
To having a good team,
truly is a team.
and then being in sync with that track and that weekend and that day, and having your whole routine dialed.
And it's always someplace different, especially in motorsports. You know, when I know this because my husband plays baseball. When you play baseball, you know every stadium you're going to throughout the season. You know what Fenway Park looks like. You know what Dodger Stadium looks like, and you have a familiarity with it. Every time you visit Southwick, it's a little different. And
well, in a baseball
so
field
controlled.
is the same every weekend.
Yeah, and it's so controlled, and everything down to the height of the grass is curated. Whereas in motorsports, you have so much change. And like I, as a human, crave variety. So I just always was captivated by motorsports.
What's cool about like a Supercross track, because that track only exists for that moment in time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One time, and then it's gone. And like you've never ridden it before, you'll never ride it again. It's kind of I never really thought about it.
One of
that
my
way.
favorite questions to ask the riders too on race day when I'm getting notes is, you know, how are you figuring out this track? Because everyone kind of looks at it differently, and everyone's got those coaches, and everyone knows, okay, this is going to be the fast line. If I triple out, that's going to be the better option. But as the track changes, what changes do you make? What adjustments do you make on the bike? And I think it's always so interesting to kind of see how riders respond to the environment, to the track. I mean, it's a living being, like, so it's changing constantly. It's fun to follow. It's fun to cover. I mean, I cover other sports, as you know, but motocross and supercross always have a special place in my heart.
You feel like, you know, out of all the sports that you cover, is that maybe your favorite?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. I love Supercross and motocross. It will always and forever be my home. I am eternally grateful and privileged to be able to cover other motorsports, and, you know, the rest of my season will look a little different too. Big news coming, but Supercross and motocross will always be my home.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's where I first discovered you, is when you were broadcasting Supercross. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
They always have a way of finding like interesting female personalities to. I hope you come back one day. I hope that's your big news. You probably can't say anything.
No, it's not. I would love to, though. That's my dream. And it's so funny because other offers come along and everyone's like, wait, you want to cover Supercross? And I'm like, yeah, that's my home. And it's your culture, it's your community. And but I am also very grateful that I have the opportunity to spread my wings and cover some different sports and do different things. And you know, I never thought in a million years I would be hosting at X Games. I always thought, you know, maybe I'll be lucky and I'll get a sideline spot at X Games. I'll be able to cover freestyle motocross. And then it's like BMX. Then they're like, hey, we want you to sit, you know, shoulder to shoulder with my biggest hero, Salama Masekela. And he's the best. He's my boy.
I was laughing because I was watching X Games with my fiance, and I was like, oh, there's Salama. It was right after I interviewed him. And then I was like, that's Kristen too. I'm going to talk to her.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's so wild because I never thought in a million years I would have the opportunity to work on a show with Salama Masekela. I grew up watching him, and what I so deeply appreciate about Salama is not only his understanding about the sports and the athletes. Like, he is an athlete himself. He engages in all of these sports. He loves it, but his genuine, authentic curiosity And he is truly, truly one of the most compassionate people I've ever had the privilege of working with. He
truly loves the sports.
loves the sport, but he also loves people,
Yeah.
and he understands people, and he has just this beautiful heart, and he's just so joyous. And working with him, it is one of the highlights of my career.
And what a storyteller. Like, he has a way of
He's a word painter. He paints words.
Yeah, so poetic, and like has a way of taking these athletes' stories and bringing them to life in a way that's so entertaining and captivating and charismatic. And it's like,
he's so good.
Such a good broad. I'm so glad you brought
Off
that
camera
up.
too. It's so funny because like, I send it every once in a while, and usually it's after X Games. And Salema and I have just had these really great conversations, and it's like he truly cares about people. And in my line of work, you rarely get to meet people who are genuinely that good. And it's like every ounce of him, it's just I feel so blessed to have even been in the same room as him. And,
he's one of those people when you meet him, he makes you feel like instantly comfortable.
Your friend.
And
He's
your
your
friend.
Yeah.
Like, he has that charisma. There's people like, it's one thing like when you feel good around people, but when you can like make other people
feel good
about themselves,
it's insane.
Such a good quality.
He spills magic everywhere he goes. And like what I've learned the most in journalism isn't necessarily anything anyone has sat me down and said, hey, I'm going to coach you on this. I've not ever been in a position where I've been able to learn in that environment, but being able to witness and watch how Salema works, I mean, it's invaluable towards, career, life growth. Like being able to watch how he carries himself in a room, how he asks for things on a set, like the way he does it and the words he uses he just speaks peace into the room. And it's like, I need to say things the way Salema says them because that is what works. And like, it's so good. And I've learned so much just being around him and absorbing the atmosphere that he walks into. And it's like, I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. He's the best.
So cool to have those kind of role models. And then
so
eventually.
Cool. And the fact that like you get to meet your hero. Everyone says don't meet your heroes. I met my hero and he's awesome. He's so
you met
cool.
him and you're shoulder to shoulder working together.
It's
probably
so
like
real.
Insane to even think about,
It's so surreal.
I don't know how old you are, but you were probably a young kid watching Salema on X Games with your family. And now you're like working together.
And now we get to work together and toss ideas. And he's so knowledgeable. And it's like, I'm really lucky.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Coming from like this motorsports background and like literally living that life, do you think that brings like a whole new level of authenticity to what you do? That maybe, because not every broadcaster like lives the life of the sport that they're announcing.
Yeah. I do think the fact I grew up in a motorsports family creates a sense of authenticity in not only what I convey, but the relationships I have. You can watch broadcasts and you can tell who really knows the sports and who loves it. Also, who really knows the athletes and understands them. And I would like to think that growing up in the sport and having a brother who I've waited in the hospital to find out whether or not he was going to be okay, like that creates a sense of respect for the sport that I think doesn't always convey on broadcast, but I also can appreciate in broadcasts where you have people who don't know about the sport, because I've covered sports that I didn't grow up in either. And I think there's this great balance to having a sense of stability. You have that person that's been in the sport for a long time, who understands the athletes and how they go about their day. But then also you have a reporter who has a genuine curiosity. And I find myself kind of teetering between both in some of the different projects that I do. So I can appreciate someone who maybe didn't grow up in the sport in the same way I do. And I think what they do is great, but I do think having that levity and being able to look at someone and say they know what they're talking about, whether it be we're talking about the bike, the mechanic, the adjustments, or the athlete and the psychology behind it. So like
understanding the consequences.
Yeah. Broadcasts, you need both in a broadcast. And I hope that, when I'm in sports that I didn't grow up in, that people find what I have to share as interesting as I do, because that's always kind of the thing, right? I'm working in a sport I've never covered before, whether it be four wheels or I just started covering some drag racing, and I understand four wheels, but I didn't grow up in a drag racing family. This is so foreign to me. And so when I ask questions, the drivers have been so accessible and they've been so cool to work with. And they're like, oh no, so we made these adjustments and we're looking at this set of data and it's so different than the data sets that you look at with IMSA or with NASCAR or with off-road racing.
And they're helping you learn.
And they're helping me learn. And it's so cool. And yeah, maybe my reports don't reflect the same way my reports in Supercross might, because my reports in Supercross show depth and understanding and this worldly knowledge of having been in the sport and understanding the history. But then my reports in drag racing, I hope also convey the same, to some degree, the same way, but maybe with a lightness or like
an openness.
Yeah. Like a genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Looking back, did you ever imagine yourself becoming a broadcaster when you were younger? No.
When I was in college, I was attending the University of San Diego. I majored in communications with a minor in law and ethics, an emphasis in ethics, and my goal was to go into law. I watched Legally Blonde and I'm like, this is me. I'm going to go defend people. I'm going to help people. And that's kind of my heart too. That's my heart song. I think that's why I was a really bad racer, because I'm not competitive at all. I want everyone to win. So, when I was in college, my brother was at the time a test rider for a major manufacturer and he got hurt. And there was no severance package. And there were so many things that were missing from the industry that I saw, that I said, let's try to make this better. And maybe I should become an athlete manager. So when we're reviewing these contracts, we can ask for things we actually need, not extra hats and energy drinks. So I interned at Wasserman Media Group under a great team of representatives. So my goal was to create a better environment, scale the sport, ensure better protection for some of the riders that I would consider auxiliary riders in the sport. And that was my goal. But in that process, I was granted some opportunity to do TV work. And at the time, I'm a college kid and I was getting a couple calls and they're like, hey, do you want to do X, Y, and Z? And do you want to come out and do this? And then there was a post within the Wasserman Media Group family that they needed an intern for motocross.com. And I'm like, well, I'm already going to law school. It's at Wasserman. Maybe I could intern over there and start doing some work there. So I kind of started juggling a few different projects. And I got to a point where I was like, I really like writing. I really enjoy writing. And, I was a communications major already and I was writing articles, taking pictures. I remember I drove all the way out to Temecula when I was 18 years old to do an interview with Todd Potter, and I was taking pictures and I was like, this is so much fun. And the athletes, again, are really special in motorsports. They're so accessible and they're so kind and so generous with their time. And I've just had such a wonderful experience in writing and talking with these athletes. And I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I can scale the sport from a media angle too. And when you're in college, you're super ambitious. I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to be a broadcaster and I'm going to do this. And so the opportunities started presenting themselves. And
was it initially like a photojournalism idea that you had?
Well, so when I was writing for motocross.com as an intern, Brendan Lutz brought me on.
Brendan Lutz, man, that's a blast from the past. Yeah. I love Brendan Lutz.
So when I was in college, they had an opening with motocross.com. And again, like I was pursuing a law degree and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll get my foot in the door with motocross.com and that'll further me at Wasserman. And it just all fell together really nicely. And I ended up really falling in love with it. And I was writing articles and it just sort of sparked my interest in a field that I never would have considered otherwise. And then the first time I really looked at broadcast journalism as a potential opportunity, I got a call from Fuel TV. One of their talents had to miss an event, and it was a freestyle motocross event. And they were filming, I think, out at Star West. Do you remember Star West? Okay, so they were filming out at Star West, and they said, "Hey, we need someone to come out and do some on-camera reports." And I laughed when they called me. I was like, no, I haven't done that before. That's silly. But I ended up driving up there when they told me how much, because again, broke kid in college. And I'm like, I'll go out there for that much by all means. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. So drove out there and I ended up really enjoying it. And Taka Higashino was one of the first athletes that I interviewed in my career on camera. And I just remember in that moment really sinking into the reality that I was able to show everyone at home what I love about this sport. And if I ask the right questions, I can open this athlete up and expose them and create a vulnerability in them that then is relayed to the world, and maybe the world will fall in love with it too.
I love that. You're like, this is a way I can communicate something that I'm passionate about and
Yeah.
why I love it and why these athletes love it.
And if I can position them to be the center of conversation, that's what you want to do as a journalist. It never should be about us. It never should be about you. It should be about positioning the person you're interviewing to expose what story I know in my heart is their best story and position them to expel that. And I mean, when we were able to do that, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I kind of fell into it and then ran with it.
You seem very passionate about like digging deeper and finding like more authentic and meaningful responses from these riders. And like that takes,
I try.
Yeah. I mean, that takes gaining trust from them. How do you gain trust from these riders? I mean, you've kind of hinted at it earlier. It could just be that you have this background in the sport and that authentic love like shines through, but and that understanding of like what it takes. But what do you think gains the trust of the riders?
I think it's a combination of so many things. I think it is a genuine curiosity because athletes are not going to respond honestly or candidly if you're just asking them, how do you feel? And so I think they respect, and they've always responded well when I show that I've done research. I think knowing their backstory, whether I grew up with them or not, and knowing the adversities they've had to overcome is a huge preparation. It's huge in gaining their trust. But then I also think how you engage with people, the energy you bring into the room, if you're confident,
Genuine curiosity.
Genuine curiosity. And I think also just being easy to work with. You know, every once in a while you see reporters who are performative, and there's nothing that makes me itch and get the ick more than that. It's these big words and these, you know, and it's just so over the top. And I feel like when you come into a situation authentically, and especially just when you're getting notes with these athletes, when you're talking with them as people, not
just having a
propaganda,
normal
you're having a true conversation with someone as a person, and when they really connect with you. And I know that for some people, if you're not a people person, it may be hard, but for me, it's always just come naturally, like just really connecting with people. And I think that's because, again, an authenticity and a genuine concern for who they are as people. And I've always tried to build my stories and my journalism off of that genuine curiosity.
Yeah, that's so huge. I mean, coming into podcasting was like a new thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm like a pretty introverted person, so it's a weird thing for me to do, but it's been fun to like learn. But I hired like a communications coach leading into this just
That's amazing.
Like
yeah.
build these skills. And it's the same thing he was saying is just like the most important thing is to be like genuinely curious when you're interviewing someone and just like truly like have curiosity because
and listen. And that's the big thing. Respond, because I think there in sports, especially, we're so eager to get our 2 words in, or some people are. And it's so valuable to listen to what someone is saying, and you can pick up on certain cues. And I think one of the more interesting interviews that I'm proud of is I did a sit down with Ken Roczen last year in Vancouver. And throughout the interview, we were kind of talking about his career legacy and where he's at. And with any athlete of that age, you're going to wonder, well, how much longer can we expect you to perform at this level in such a physically demanding sport? And throughout the process of the interview, just based on his tone and his demeanor and some of the things he was saying, I realized he wasn't afraid of a poor performance. He was afraid of life after retirement. And I think that is a very scary concept for a lot of athletes whose entire world has spun around this one sport. And the concept of moving forward in your career can be frightening. But again, in those moments, you listen to what the athlete is telling you and you try to get a gauge for what their heart is saying and read between the lines, because no one's going to step out and say like, hey, I'm afraid of life after retirement. But if you're getting that feeling, you can ask them that. And Ken is an amazing interview. Ken Roczen is just one of the coolest. Oh my gosh, in my opinion, I think he is an icon for so many reasons in this sport, not only being an international rider. He wasn't born and raised here in the United States. He's had to overcome so many things that athletes who were born here have never had to do. But
I saw Ken Roczen for the first time. I followed him since he was like on 80s.
Yeah.
Just because I was a fan. But he came to Motocross of Nations in Colorado in 2010.
Yeah.
I think he was like 15.
Oh.
And like leading most of the race. And I'm like, wow, like at the biggest race in the world. And like this kid is winning at 15.
Well, and he had such a different career trajectory than so many other athletes of his age caliber, right? And he's done so many different things. And I think what I love about Ken is he has this never give up attitude, and he's been through so much. And if you look at his arms and his body, I mean, he has had some terrible injuries that he's come back from and still been able to be one of the, he's good for a win or two every season. And the fact that he can still do that despite everything he's been through. I mean, even the bike changes that he made, like going from a factory Honda to a relatively unproven bike, the Suzuki, in this era is huge. The fact that he was able to make that jump and find success there when everyone doubted him. Everyone said, why are you going there? Like, maybe you should consider X, Y, and Z team instead. The fact that he was so confident in himself that he was like, you know what, I'm going to go to Suzuki. I'm going to make history here. And he did.
I want to take a moment to talk about my absolute favorite gear brand. I got my first set of Fox gear when I was learning to ride in 1998. Not just because it looked cool, but because it meant something to me. That Fox head was more than just a logo. It was an identity. All these years later, I'm still wearing Fox, and it still means just as much. For 50 years, Fox Racing has been chasing the edge, pushing the limits of what's possible with moto gear. From past legends to the next generation of riders, Fox has never stopped evolving. And through it all, the mission has always stayed the same: build the most advanced gear on the planet for those bold enough to push beyond the limit. I've been part of this journey since I was a kid, and I'm proud to still fly the Fox head. Go check out the latest gear at foxracing.com. Yeah, and I mean that confidence comes from experience because he's proven it to himself, like what he can do. He's confident.
He knows himself.
Yeah, he knows himself, and you gain a lot of that like character through the types of hardships that Ken's gone through these like really painful injuries and challenges and tough times, and dealing with like long-term health issues and like so many struggles, and to always keep coming back, like that creates such character. And that kind of brings me to another thing I wanted to talk to you about is like the psychology of a racer, because you have this really cool experience across like this wide variety of sports, and like you get to see all these different athletes through all these different disciplines, and like the racing psychology of like these racers. Is there any common ground you see like across motorsports racing?
What I have noticed over the past 5 years, which is a stark difference to the last decade of racing, these athletes are insanely calculated to race at the level they race at, to make the posture adjustments, to make the bike adjustments, to adapt to the track and change their lines. Requires you to play chess, not checkers. And a long time ago, I think there was this grand misconception that motocross and supercross racers were just full throttle and they were wild and crazy. And maybe back in the day they were. But nowadays, you can't be that anymore. Nowadays, Monday through Friday, you are studying film, you are watching the track, you're looking at the bike, you're making minute adjustments. I mean, you have to have such a good feel for the bike as well. And you have to be able to communicate that vocabulary to your mechanics, and they're incredibly calculated. And what I find so impressive is in NASCAR or in round racing, even in road course racing, you may have 2-3 spotters that are telling you which line to take. And that is on a track that doesn't change, right? This is on a track that is an asphalt paved track. You have spotters. In Supercross, you don't have that. It is just you, yourself, and I underneath that helmet until we get radio comms, which I'm actually hoping.
Is there a rule against radio comms, or do people
at this time? Yeah. So you can't communicate. So your
I always
communication.
wondered why they didn't do that.
This is one of those things that I think will make the sport infinitely more complex, but also more complicated. But I would love to see it move in that direction. But the thing is, too, some riders are so. Some riders don't like it. So some riders don't want to hear someone like a crew chief in your ear. But what I find,
because you do have to be so focused, and like you don't want a voice
you can't
in
miss
your
a
head
step
telling you what to do, and then you're second guessing your intuition and your like reactions because you're trying to change your line.
So we don't know what implications it'll have on the sport in the future. But I do think radio comms are something we will see in the future. And I think it could add a layer of interest and intrigue to the sport. Because I would love to listen to Roger DeCoster talking to Aaron Plessinger during a moto, because Roger sees things other people don't see. And I think that could help Aaron. But at the same time, could it hurt a rider because it is so distracting? But again, what I find really interesting is in all these other sports that have far less variables, you have spotters. In Supercross and motocross, there are no spotters. So again, these athletes that for the longest time we thought were just haphazard sending it are insanely calculated. And so I think from the psychology standpoint, this idea that these athletes just have to flip the switch off. Yes, in certain circumstances, when you're going to try to hit a quad, you should probably flip the switch off. But in all other circumstances, these guys are making calculations, analyzing so much data at one time. The not only innate skill, like that you have to be innately talented to do what they do, but also so intelligent.
There's like this element of mindfulness too, because like there's so much chaos going on. It's such a high adrenaline, high intensity thing with so much danger, but you have to be so tuned in and calm and precise. And
I know you interviewed Tyler Behrman, and he
I love his mindset, and I love seeing how he's grown over the years. Like when I met him, he was just like a scraggly little punk kid.
Me too. I met him when he was a scraggly punk kid too.
Yeah, because he's from SoCal, where you're. Yeah, I'm sure he raced with your brother. And he has a history
in flat track. So like his family used to flat track, which is so cool. His grandpa, his dad, and him. So,
but now he has this mentality of like mindfulness and like calmness and being present.
But that is an intentional maturity that I think he's reached. He and I have had great conversations before every X Games, even during X Games. And he's worked with a mental skills coach that has allowed him
to talk to Troy as well. Right? That would be a really cool conversation.
Such a good convo. So he has curated this beautiful, like you said, mindfulness in preparation for these events. And what I find interesting is also, the Supercross guys have a super calculated, high energy, high strung mentality. You almost find the opposite, and you'd think it would be the opposite. You find the opposite with the freestyle and the quarter pipe guys. You have to go about your sport with such a calm mindfulness. And I think finding that center and that peace before you even, twist the throttle is so important. But Tyler Behrman's a perfect example. He wasn't always that, but he has gotten help, and he's worked with this great team of people who have encouraged him to advance his performance in a more mental capacity. So it's like he now approaches these sports with a completely different mentality than he used to, because he's training himself too.
Yeah, it's so important. And especially with like what they do is being able to like shut off the fear response, because you're going to be scared doing these things. There's no question, but being able to like control your nervous system and like bring that down so that you can be present and like work at the highest level.
Tyler explained to me the process is he gets dressed, he acknowledges the risk. And that's the big process, is he acknowledges that this is dangerous.
I might be coming back to my van with a broken limb.
Yeah, he acknowledges it. Then he puts the helmet on, he breathes, and he goes for it. I think that's the big thing, is acknowledging it in the right moment. And that's how he's been coached, to like leave a space and time in your routine to acknowledge it. And then you forget about it. And
that way, when it's time to
you're not
action,
acknowledging it.
You're not riding
in the
with
moment.
fear.
Yeah.
You've accepted it at that point.
Yeah. And it's so cool to kind of see where the sport has gone. Even, in Colby Raha, when he and I worked recently on the world record jump that he completed in Sturgis, South Dakota, which was insane. I mean, he's a living day, Evel Knievel. But I asked him what he was relying on moving into this jump. And this is a moment where there's, I want to say 20,000 people lined up to watch him, all Harley Davidson fans, all Sturgis bikers. And, you got to go for it. The ramp wasn't what he wanted. The in-run wasn't what he needed. It was not an ideal setup for him to do this. In the first couple attempts, he was shy of hitting the record. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he's got to put the bike on the trailer. We'll hit this another day. We'll figure out a different venue for him to do this. And he was like, no, like I've put in the work. I am relying on the work that I put in. I know I can do this. I acknowledge, yes, there is a great amount of risk with this, but I know I can do it. So I think it's also relying on everything you did, in the weeks prior is huge. And that's part of your mental strategy is actually putting in the work, because then in those moments you can rely on it. Like, no, I know I can do this because I did X, Y, and Z leading up to this event.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that preparation, I feel like too, like you mentioned, just these days compared to eras in the past, the mental side is like so important. And I find that so fascinating. Like I was talking to Sammy Halbert last night.
Slamming Sammy, my boy.
So fun. Yeah.
Did you tell him you're interviewing me today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Did he get a big smile?
Yeah. He was like, oh, rad. Yeah. He was stoked. And it
he's
was
my buddy. I'm sad we don't get to see him more on flat track.
He's so nice, man. That was my first time meeting him. He's super cool. And but like it was really interesting hearing him talk about like the mental side for him is like what's helped take him to the next level with racing is learning to control his heart rate. Yeah. And like with breathing and like mental exercises. And like once he was able to bring his heart rate down and kind of like retrain his nervous system, his racing really elevated. And
his racing also elevated when he learned how to slide past people. That was also what is it? Slide job? Slide job is what the kids are calling it nowadays.
I don't know.
Yeah. So he learned how he is excellent at taking someone's line in flat track. He's very good at it.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He's aggressive. We love him though.
Yes.
He is
Sammy.
He never leaves the track without making at least one enemy.
That's what he said. He's like, my whole life I've had a lot of people talk, I've made a lot of enemies.
Yeah. No, we all love him though. And the cool thing about the flat track paddock is all these guys really, truly did grow up together. In Supercross, I think you have more national representation, but in flat track, there is such a small community that they really did all grow up together. So like we all know to expect that Sammy's going to go out there and slam people. We just know it.
That's the cool thing about flat track too, is that real communal family atmospheres. It's such a small sport in a way. Like everyone knows everyone. It's really kind of family oriented.
And the thing is, Sammy doesn't ride over his head. So if you're going to T-bone someone, do it right, So like, and he does it right.
Yeah. And he mentioned that he's like, I never want to take someone out. Like, I'll give you an elbow. But I'm not going to like take you out intentionally,
Well, he might take you out intentionally, but it will be done well. It will be executed perfectly.
Yeah.
It will be super well done.
Do you feel like having good storytellers is important for the health of the sport?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the importance of good storytelling?
For you to grow a sport, whether it be BMX, IMSA, motocross, supercross, whatever you're growing, you need to give people who aren't familiar with the sport something that makes them feel, right? So like whether it be sad, happy, joy, adversity, everyone loves a good story. I mean, that's why Taylor Swift is the most successful pop artist on the planet, because she tells stories, right?
So true. So that you can relate to.
You can relate to. And I think that's part of growing the sport. And it also has to be told from someone who people at home trust. And what creates trust, knowledge, confidence. I think there are some intangibles in that. It's someone who you would think would be easy to talk to. And I think all of that goes into good storytelling, right? So it's not just about the story, but it's how you tell it, the inflections you use in your voice, how you present yourself when you're telling the story. Like I used to watch Jenny Taft, and she's now a good friend of mine, which is also so crazy. But Jenny was just the best at it. She was so good. And she did not know the sport when she first started it. She knows that. She'll admit that herself. But she was so warm, and she really had that genuine curiosity we've talked about. And she conveyed in such a way, and she's actually been a great mentor to me. Like she's gotten on the phone with me on multiple occasions when I've been like, hey, I have a big show coming up. Do you have any advice for me? And she's like, Kristen, you don't have to hit it out of the park. Just get on first base. And like, she'll give me these great euphemisms for that. I'm like, atta girl, thanks. But what she does so well is just that. She's not trying to tell a story that wins an Emmy Award. She's not trying to be the best in the show on the broadcast because she's competitive and she wants it to be all about her and nothing about her is performative. She's not going to go out and ride a motorcycle and post pictures of herself doing it just because she knows that would make the fans go gaga. She's genuinely and authentically herself, and she's a good storyteller. And I think the reason why so many Supercross fans and now college football fans fall in love with her is because you can tell when she's talking, you just want to be her friend. And she's telling you a story that was genuinely interesting to her. And she's not writing a story because she thinks it'll sound good for TV. She's telling a story that she knows was interesting to her that day. And I think there's such a warmth to the way Jenny conveys. And I think that going back to storytelling, that's so important in storytelling, how you convey as a person. Are you someone else wants to be friends with and trust on television? And that all circles back to even your relationships you have with the athletes, the stories you tell. It's all about being true to yourself. And I think telling a story that, it may not can be the easiest story to tell, or maybe I can't use the biggest word that I found in my dictionary and thesaurus this week that I want to say and make people think I'm really smart, but it's just so good, and that's what I've always really admired about Jenny. But having good storytellers for any sport, whether it be BMX or moto or Supercross, is pivotal, because that's how you get the sport to grow, is by bringing in people who aren't just knowledgeable about the sport, but great storytellers.
Mm-hmm. Passionate about it, and they can convey that in a compelling way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about Jenny Taft, who like you've looked up to, and I'm like, everything you're kind of describing about her qualities is like something that like reflects you as well, which you can't say that about yourself, but I'll say it, you're really great at what you do. And, you've traversed these different disciplines between Supercross and flat track and NASCAR and arena cross and so many things. What stays consistent to you with the way you approach these different sports, and then what's maybe different between like each sport?
I would say from a technical broadcast standpoint, there are so many major differences. So when I'm working on X Games, we work with a completely different production crew, and we work with a different run of show and format.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. No worries.
That's my husband calling. Actually, I'll speak to him real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, I'm doing a podcast right now.
Sorry, love you, bye. That's hilarious. I love
We always
that.
do morning check-ins. Dude,
that's my first FaceTime guest on the podcast.
I
love
know,
that.
right?
Where's he at?
He's actually playing in South Korea right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
so he's out there for a while, or what?
He'll be back first week of October, but this season he took a down season from MLB. He's had like 6 seasons in MLB baseball, 2 with Phillies, 2 with Oakland, and 2 with Baltimore as a starting pitcher. And we just weren't sure where this next season was going to take us. He was a free agent. We had a couple offers from teams, but they weren't starting pitcher offers, and he still felt like he had more in the tank. And so his agent was like, okay, well, either you can sign a deal as a reliever, or you can go out to Korea, do the Mayo Kelly train, have a badass season in Korea, and then come back and show these teams that you can be a starting pitcher again. Because in Baltimore, they used him in a hybrid role as like a long relief pitcher, and it just wasn't the right fit for him, but he still had a great season. But we decided to go the Korea route. It's been such a cool cultural experience.
Have you gone out to visit and check it out?
I have, and it is really neat, but you miss home. Like Cole is very country, so he likes hunting. He likes riding his 4-wheelers. He goes out and he's very outdoorsy, and he's kind of cooped
Missing
up.
That.
He's a bird in a cage right now. He is in a big, tall building, and there's the food there is a little different, and so he's missing a home. But he'll be back next year, which is great. So
that's cool.
Yeah, we're gonna enter free agency in November.
You guys are kind of like a Hallmark movie. It's so funny. It's like a baseball player and a sports commentator. That's hilarious.
It's so wild because I met him at a bar. So we didn't meet knowing that.
You didn't meet through like the sports industry.
No. And everyone thinks that we would have. Yeah, no, we met at a bar. We met at a bar.
That's cool.
And we have a really beautiful kind of cute meet. So initially when I met him, I had kind of seen him and he was talking to me a little bit, and I was like, oh, I've got a single friend that just got broken up with, and
you weren't initially interested?
Well, I don't know.
You probably have a lot of guys approach you too, which your probably reaction is like, okay.
No, not as many as you think. But at the time I was just like, you know what? I was in sweatpants. Like I had just gotten back from an arena cross actually. And I flew in, and it was a friend's birthday, and we were all going to meet at the bar. And I'm like, guys, I don't want to go, but I did have her present. And I'm like, I'll bring her present over and have one drink and go home. I was literally in sweatpants. And he comes over and he starts talking, and I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking like, I'll go grab you and I'll peace out. But we started talking. We're both from Southern California. And as we continue talking, I was like, oh, he's actually kind of nice. Like, he's kind of cute. And so I'm like, okay, but no,
Never mind, he's mine.
Never mind. He's actually really nice. And he seems like a nice guy. Then it comes up, that he plays baseball. And I was like, oh, he's an athlete. Nope. I work with y'all. I know how y'all are. There's no chance this is going to go anywhere because I know, they get a bad rap. And working in traditional sports, which I did prior to that in Michigan for, 2-3 years, I worked with the Lions football team and I worked with the Detroit Tigers. And I was like, no, I see how you guys are. You travel way too much. But we continued talking, and something that came up in the conversation that doesn't always come up in conversation, I think, especially on a first meeting, is your faith. And I had mentioned, well, no, I got to get back. I've got church tomorrow morning. He's like, oh, what church do you go to? And, I kind of talked about Elevation, which is the church at the time I was going to out here in Charlotte. And he's like, okay, well, let me walk you to your car. And at the time in my life, I was at a really odd crossroads where I had been dating someone for a long time prior to that, and the relationship had come to a conclusion, and I really wasn't ready to date someone else, but I was just going through it. Like, you're just, sometimes like I was in sweatpants at a bar, let's just put it that way. And I was just kind of working my way through all these emotions, and he's like, let me walk you to your car. So on the way to the car, there was a gentleman who stopped cold, and he goes, hey, and you're going to get chill bumps. It's crazy, and you're going to think we are super crazy, but we're walking to the car, and this gentleman goes, hey, do you have any spare change? And Cole goes, yeah, here's, a couple dollars. And then this older gentleman looks at me like straight in the eye, like dead into my soul. And he says, thank you so much. There's something that's been on my heart. Can I share it with you? And we were like, yeah, sure. Go ahead. And of course we're like a little like, okay, this is kind of a weird situation. But he goes, Jeremiah 29:11. I read it this morning, and it's a verse that I've stuck with. And he looks like me dead in the eye, and he goes, does that verse mean anything to you? And I just start bawling because the day prior, a really good friend of mine, because she knew I was going through it, had given me a gold bar necklace with the back of it that said Jeremiah 29:11. And he could not see it. And it was like behind, like the gold bar, it's just a gold bar, and it's very subtle. And she'd gotten it for me because she knew I was going through it. It's on the backside. You can't even see it. And it's teeny, teeny, tiny. It says Jeremiah 29:11. And I look at him and he goes, does this verse mean anything to you? And I'm like, and I just start bawling as I'm walking to the car. Cole's like, are you okay? And I think at that point he was like, I need to get this girl out of here. And I was like, well, no, like the inside of my necklace says Jeremiah 29:11. And it says essentially the Lord will direct your path. And he's like, no way. He goes, that was my devotional this morning. That was the devotional I read this morning because he reads devotionals. And so we're both like, maybe like we should go out to breakfast tomorrow morning.
Wow.
Right? It's wild. And so we decided to go out to breakfast the next morning, and we didn't initially start dating though, because even though all that happened, I'm a fool and I'm sitting back and I'm like, this is not going anywhere. He's a baseball
Too
player.
good to be true.
This is weird. That was a coincidence. I talked to all my friends about it, and they're like, oh my gosh, like you need to talk to this guy. And we were really busy, so we didn't initially start dating. We talked for a little bit, and then he went back to Philadelphia and continued playing, and we would see each other. Like when he came to Charlotte, we would have a dinner, and I always kind of friend zoned him because he wasn't necessarily my type. But then we just grew this really beautiful friendship, and eventually we were like, we are so silly, we need to date. And so we started dating, and 7 years later, we're married.
That's amazing. Congrats. I love
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
It's so cool to like start as a friendship too. Have this
and you mature together and you change. And, I think for Cole and I, like, it wasn't just this straight arrow trajectory like some people have, like, hey, I met and we got married. That's not us. Like, we both were living these really big lives, and we learned how to not only communicate with each other, but build our lives around the foundation of faith that we had, but then also how we can communicate with each other, which I think is so huge in relationships, whether you're traveling or it's long distance or whatever it may be. Like, one of our big things is we talk with each other every morning. At night, we do our devotionals and we read. And I think what happens a lot of times when you're dating someone, especially, is one person has to be cool. Like, and me and Cole are both the biggest dorks. Like, neither of us are cool at all. And we finally accepted that. Like, we're just very authentic. And so I think that's where we both, we find our peace and our rest together, and it's really special. But yeah, so he'll FaceTime every morning.
Foreign Rider is my favorite apparel brand, hands down. Founded by my friend Ralph Dunning, a pioneer in the apparel industry with over 30 years of experience, he built this company for people like us, riders, explorers, creators. and those who live active lives and need gear that can keep up. When I'm training, I wear the Odyssey collection. It keeps me cool, dry, and performing better for longer. When I'm traveling or just relaxing at home, the Solace collection is my go-to for unmatched comfort. But the real standout for me is the Merino base layers. They keep you warm, dry, and feeling perfect under a waxed canvas jacket for those cooler rides. And when it's hot, like it is here in Florida, the Odyssey long sleeve tee keeps me super cool and comfortable all day long. The fit, the feel, the quality of these products is on another level. And that's why I literally wear them every single day. Foreign Rider isn't just clothing, it's a mindset. A reminder to live with intention, to choose quality over quantity, and the exploration of freedom, whatever freedom means to you. Check out the full collection at foreignrider.com. Once you wear it, there's no going back. That's great. And like finding that authenticity in like every aspect of your life. What we were talking about when he called was like you cover all these disciplines and like from, Supercross, flat track, arena cross, NASCAR. What changes for you and what stays the same with like your approach to all these different sports?
In my approach, I am very methodical. I always prep with an iPad. I list my questions out that I know I want to ask the athletes on note day, because during the week I'll try to study and figure like, okay, this is the big story. Justin Barcia is coming in with X, Y, and Z injury. So I'm going to go and ask him that in the notes and ask how he's recovering, because creating that mindfulness of what's going on in the greater storylines. If you're just going into race weekend, you just, oh, hey, how you doing? And that's your notes. You're not going to get quality notes. So I think that stays the same regardless of any sport I'm in, is I try to be cognizant of and aware of all of the stories that might be circling.
Of, like, the rider's story, but then like what's the story from the fan's perspective?
Yeah.
So you've got these two angles you're thinking about.
All the time that you're taking into consideration. So I think the big thing for me that stays the same is just my preparation and how I go into a race weekend. The things that are different, just from a technical standpoint, is the broadcast productions. And every production I do, there's so many different amenities. So, I mean, this past week I shot a Fort Lauderdale, Florida Keys shoot. And it's so different because my preparation for that is, okay, studying the hotel website, knowing the partner brands, knowing what the Michelin star chef's main dish at the restaurant we're going to is. So I think that kind of changes for me. And the production group is also very different, because if I make a mistake, we can retape it. But then, you go to X Games and you are one shot live as live can be. There are a bazillion people watching on ABC network. And so like your preparation kind of varies, the production groups you're with. I will say I envy people who get to work with like one production group all year. I think one of the biggest obstacles I face in my career is because I crave so much variety. I also have to overcome those adversities and working with a different producer every other weekend. And that's challenging because you have different workflows and different expectations, and you have different equipment. And so one week I'm working with one kind of mic where when you press this button, you'll get your producer, and the next week that same button does not get you your producer. And so you're kind of learning how to work with all of these different technologies. And that is, I think, and also you're studying so many different sports. So rather than getting to really focus in on one sport and one set of athletes, I mean, I talk to 150 people, if not more, a year. I'm talking to so many different people with so many different sports. And especially when we get into like the four-wheel stuff, it's, crew chiefs and car chiefs, and with the drag racing stuff, the same thing. And then I go to BMX at just one, and I'm like, thank you. Just one person managing the bike over here. But you get so much variety that it can be overwhelming at times. But
keeps it interesting.
It keeps it interesting, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think I'd get bored if it were different, but that is one of the biggest differences and difficulties.
Yeah, and it's like no matter what you're doing, whether it's 4 wheels, 2 wheels, shooting something with food in restaurants,
so
it all comes down to like good preparation, finding the story, and then the best way to convey that story.
Yeah. And I think being adaptable too. So that's the big thing, is like if you are, and this is for anyone, whether you be a podcaster or a reporter or a host, it's being adaptable. So like you can have a story in your head that you're going to lead the day with, and like, this is what I'm going with. But if in a conversation 2 minutes before gate drop, someone tells you something that you think trumps that, you have to be able to be bold. And this is the one thing that I've always told girls, because I work with a lot of girls who are kind of coming up, and I love mentoring other women because I really didn't have a female mentor outside of Jenny Taft that I could really rely on in this space. And I didn't meet Jenny until I was well into my 30s. And so, coming up, I've got a lot of girls that I'm talking to that are in their early 20s and who want to get into the sport. And the big thing that I tell them is be bold and be adaptable, because there will be 100 girls who can rattle off a report that they wrote the night before, that they've been studying since 7 a.m. that morning, that they memorized. But when you watch it, they memorized it and they convey it like they're a morning news anchor. But very few people can have the sense and the ability to, in the moment, be live, see what's happening, respond to it, and actually carry a report that is far more valuable
and you had prepared
than the one you had prepared. And it's way more timely, and it gives the broadcast such a value and a relevance that you otherwise wouldn't get. So that is the big advice that I try to train young girls with, is be adaptable.
You have to be brave, because there's
a chance you mess it up.
This list of questions I have here is kind of a safety net for me.
Right.
And like, I'm new at this, so I'm like learning, and it is cool to just be in the moment and adapt to the storyline as it unfolds.
Right.
Then you have to like really
especially for
present.
reporters. One of the big things,
live TV, it's like
a younger girl I was talking with maybe 2 weeks ago. I always say younger girl. I shouldn't say that. That's silly. But like, one of the people I'm mentoring right now, she came to me and she said, I tried and I noticed that they were having a mechanical and I wanted to give that report, but I said the part wrong. And I said, yeah, but a bad report about something relevant to me trumps a good report about something irrelevant. And I think that's where broadcast needs to begin to trend again, because for so long we've gotten into this conformity that the A report has to be your best report and you got to present it well and everything's got to be perfect. Well, I'd rather hear a relevant report. And I think that's where podcasts are changing the way we deliver sports, because podcasts are so much more authentic. You can say things wrong. You can get off track, but people are responding more to podcasts because they're real. I think what we fail at in broadcast is being real. So like, we need
authenticity.
It's that authenticity. So moving into the moment, really responding to the moment. What I love about the freedom I get in World Supercross, we interview a lot of the athletes on the line, like right before gate drops. And that requires a relationship with that athlete, because there are some guys that are not going to talk to you before gate drop. But B, it also gives the fans at home such a unique perspective and accessibility. They don't get that in NFL football, right? But in Supercross, we can walk right up to those athletes. And if you have the relationship, you can pull an interview like that. And that's huge. And I've always thought that those were some of the best interviews we get, which are those right on the line,
The worst is like when an athlete is like pissed off or something bad happens.
I love moments like that.
Like when a reporter comes up to them and they kind of say something like snappy towards the reporter, like, well, you saw what happened, or like, what do you think? Or, those moments might be like challenging.
So cringe and so ick. But here's the thing, and I don't mean to toot my own horn on it, but that's never happened to me, because I think you should have a gauge, first of all, when to walk over and when not to. And I have a brother, so I know when not to. Right. So like, if he got off the track and he's having a bad day or he had a bad test session,
don't shove a microphone in his face. Yeah.
But instead, as a reporter, you describe what's happening behind you. Like, hey guys, behind me, James Stewart just tossed his goggles. He's obviously really frustrated. I spoke with Larry and he told me that this is the third time it's happened this season. And as a team, they're really frustrated. Like, you give a report, you don't necessarily stick a mic in their face. But that's also sometimes where you have to produce yourself, because I've been in situations where producers have said, go and get an interview. And you have to, in that moment, decide, okay, journalism integrity, is my relationship with this athlete more important than this interview? And 99% of the time I have to elect no. And we'll talk about it later. But perfect example, R. Willie in BMX street best trick this year was going for a never been done that he attempted in Osaka, wasn't able to get it done. It was ugly. It was ugly. A couple uglies, like just one after another. He could not land this trick. And I'm thinking, maybe I go and I talk to him. Maybe I don't. So you wait until the right moment. And so instead of putting him on camera, you walk over and you say, hey, are you going to try it again? Do you have a backup trick just to land, just to get yourself a medal in this comp? Because the guy has a gajillion tricks he could land, right?
You're building trust.
He's going for just one. So like I literally put the mic out of range so no one can hear it. Hey, are you going to keep going for this? Do you have a backup trick? He tells me, and then it becomes a report. So he doesn't feel the pressure of being on camera. It's like, hey, instead, guys, I just talked to Ryan Williams. He is going to keep attempting this trick. Like he has backup tricks, but he wants so desperately to land this at X Games. Like that becomes the report, right? So
Comes back to that adaptability.
yeah. So you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to give the report. It can't all be memorized. It can't just be, and that's, I think, where so many reporters, yeah, you can be good in situations where there's low pressure. Yeah, top of the show, your A hit's going to be banging because it should be, because if there is not something more relevant, you should have rehearsed it and studied it and it should be polished. But can you adapt? And that's what I'm trying to teach all the girls that I mentor is like, be so well prepared earlier in the day that you can adapt to.
Being that prepared, how do you sustain, like, I asked the same thing to Salema because he's reporting on
Everything,
skateboarding,
Formula
BMX,
One.
everything.
Yeah.
Like, so, you're doing all these different sports, all these different athletes. How do you stay so informed with such a wide variety of topics and personalities and life stories and through lines through the series? And like, how do you stay on top of that? Because to have that adaptability, you kind of have to have that background knowledge of like what's going on with these people.
I appreciate that you think I'm on top of it, because 99% of the time I feel like I'm not. But I think a big part of it is, gosh, all of this just graduates around authenticity. I authentically talk to a lot of these athletes, even when I don't need notes from them. So I'm following them on Instagram. I'm sending them DMs. I'm talking to a lot of them in real life. I'll go out to the test tracks or to the practice tracks and catch up with them. And I may not have a show coming up for 6 months, but I just want to say hi because, I've built these relationships with them. And I think, again, that comes in clutch when you're having a bad day or when something happens, because they trust me and they know I'm going to be over there. So I think just keeping up with them comes naturally.
You have that passion for the sport and that genuine
I'm already
curiosity.
living it. I'm already in it. So to me, it's not extra work. It's not. But I do study during the week. And I will watch what other people are doing in the podcast world. I'll listen to other podcasts. I'll listen to people in the podcast space, Ride Beyond, Pulp MX, all these different podcasts. I'll try to take them in and listen to what the athletes are saying in comfortable environments, because I think that's really important too. Like the athlete that you guys sit down with is going to be so different than the athlete that I get on race day, because it's a completely different environment, but we can learn so much from those spaces. So I try to do my research externally too when I have time. And I think that's huge. I watch a lot of other programs. I watch other sports too, because I like to see how coverage is taking form in other disciplines, whether it be NFL or hockey or, I watch a lot of Formula One. I think the IndyCar broadcast has done an amazing job this year on Fox. They've done such a good job. So I watch a lot of that to see what kind of questions they're asking, how they're getting more from their athletes. So I try to do a lot of studying in that way.
And you probably like really focus your studying based on like what you have coming up. So if I'm doing the flat track series next, like I'm going to really dive into this world and like catch up on everything that's happening with these athletes.
Yeah. And the hard thing is though, too, a lot of my sports overlap. So like I'll be doing arena cross and then X Games will pop in and or Winter X Games. I'll be doing flat track.
And then suddenly you have to know all the BMX riders. And then suddenly you have to know all the arena cross athletes. And it's just like.
So you're always kind of playing catch up. But again, I think one of the best, I guess, pillars I lean on is just being relevant. So it's like on the day of, I do a lot of data collection. On the day of, I
talking with everyone.
Oh man, I tire. By the time 11 o'clock or midnight hits at the end of a race day, I am done, because I really do like kicking into full gear on race days. But again, like traveling out, I watch a lot of film. I watch the previous race from the year before. And here's a perfect example. Going into Springfield the weekend before last with American Flat Track, I watched the last 3 years of Springfield races. Firstly, because it's fun. It's some of the coolest racing on the planet. It's our Daytona 500. It's the fastest, best, biggest race of the year for us. But I would rewatch. I watched the whole thing, and then I would rewatch the final couple laps, because you want to see that 3-wide draft pass, or you want to see how the guys are setting themselves up on that track that year because of the climate. And I will go back and watch how the athletes responded on the podium to the questions I asked them last year. And then remember not to ask that same question again, because you kind of get into this program of like, wait, this happened, like draft pass for the win. And so you try to differentiate too, so you get different angles.
Smart. What does it feel like being on live TV versus, like, for example, you were just in the Keys and you guys were doing like a production that's like not live. And then it's like a whole new story when, you were in, what was it, 2024, you did Supercross? Was that the year?
No,
Or
no. Well, I mean, I still do World Supercross, but domestic Supercross I haven't done, I think, since 2021
okay, so
for Race Day Live.
2021 you were doing Supercross,
Yeah.
and that's live TV.
Everything else I do is live.
Yeah, so
Everything else is live.
that's like a whole new level of pressure.
Well, to be honest, something like this, a podcast, to me is way more pressure because it's talking about me, which is such a foreign thing to do. I'm so used to showcasing other people. So for me, like my palms are sweaty right now. Like this is so uncomfortable, but it is good because it pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I do like challenging myself in that way. So I appreciate you having me on because it is a great way for me to grow as well. But the live TV comes natural to me at this point because I don't consider people at home. It's just about the athlete and the sport.
And you're so in the moment, you're not thinking about yourself because like
Yeah.
the whole point is to not think about yourself.
Right.
It's to like be engaged with the story that's
With the story.
and communicate what's happening with these athletes, and you
Yeah.
kind of take yourself out of it
Mm-hmm.
and you get out of your head.
Yep. And like when I show up on race day or for a live event, it is so not about me. I even kind of cringe when we do hair and makeup because I'm like, guys, I step out. A lot of my shots, you'll see me step out because I want the camera to move in on the athlete. That's big for me. That's kind of one of my touches because it is about the athlete. But like something like this is so different because you're exposing like parts of yourself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
Because it's like vulnerable.
It is, yeah.
People on the podcast, you're talking about like your life story and like the things that,
Yeah.
the way you feel about things.
And what shapes us.
What shapes you, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very different. And then, I mean, the Florida Keys shoot, that stuff is just fun. I mean, we were showcasing all these different restaurants as a complimentary shoot to Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, which is super one of the coolest shows that I work on yearly. I get to work with Jamie Little and Jenny Taft and Will Christian. It's like this culmination of superpower girls. It's one of the cool, like I always pinch myself when I get the call to do these shows because I'm like, wait, I get to be on set with Jamie Little and Jenny Taft.
Are you guys all good friends? Or
Oh,
is there
yeah.
like any rivalries or anything?
No. So, I mean, we are all super, super good friends and we all have very different personalities, which is cool. And I've always really just gravitated to Jenny and to Will, and Will's so fun. Like, I don't know if it always shows on the broadcast. Because she's so pinpoint, like she is exacting when she talks, but she is so fun. She has such a good time and she has a really funny sense of humor. I love sitting next to her. Like she's a cool girl. I love working with those women, but like on shoots like that, I mean, we're sampling cocktails and, my producer's always like, okay, I'll have one sip. You guys have the rest because I have 10 more coming. But we have such a good time and it is fun because it's so different than sports. And that someone was like, you know what? Kristen is a cool enough person. We want to have her come and do this. So that's always kind of a neat thing.
I want to give a shout out to my amazing sponsor, Rider Justice. There's a lot stacked against us as riders. The unpredictable things that can happen out on the road, and there's a general negative perception of motorcyclists in the courts when something unfortunate happens. Thankfully, there's someone out there who's been fighting for us, like really fighting for over 25 years, and that's Scott O'Sullivan of Rider Justice. Scott is not just a lawyer, he's an advocate for riders, the kind who shows up to rallies, sits on nonprofit boards, gives free legal advice to riders in need, and truly fights for our rights. He launched Rider Justice to stand up for all of us, on the road, in the courtroom, and in our culture. If you've been hurt in a crash, if you've lost someone, or if you just want to know your rights as a rider, go to riderjustice.com. Yeah. And speaking of like being a woman, one thing I was curious about, like with your story and your experience is like, have people ever underestimated you based on like your appearance?
All the time.
Yeah.
My first ever NASCAR K&N race that I covered, like it almost makes me cry because it's so crazy to think back to it. But I remember sitting in my hotel room before the first NASCAR K&N race for Fox that I covered. And I was so excited. I'd worked so hard. I was studying. This was, in all honesty, a premature casting. I shouldn't have been casted for that role at the age I was. I was 22 years old. It was on a national network. I had just concluded. No, I was 21. I was 21 years old at the time because I had graduated college early. And then I flew out here and I got this job as Miss Sprint Cup, which was at the time like a media job. But then after that concluded, I received a great offer from NASCAR Productions to come and do this. And I think they hired me because they wanted cotton candy, and I wanted to show that I wasn't cotton candy. And I love everyone at NASCAR Productions, though, mind you. This is just, at the time, that was the casting, and that was the era at the time, right? That's 15 years ago. That was what they were casting for. But I remember sitting in my hotel room, and an account with 150,000 Twitter followers, back when it was still called Twitter. It was called the Orange Cone, and he was the Howard Stern of NASCAR. He'd make fun of the drivers. He'd make fun of people. And behind the scenes, no one knew who he was. He got to tweet out, but he had a huge social media presence, and I did not have a social media presence. So the first introduction that so many of these NASCAR fans had to me being assigned the role as K&N sideline reporter was the tweet was, and I will never forget it, big TNA hire by Fox to put Kristen Beat sideline. Don't expect much. And that was literally his tweet. And I remember seeing that in a hotel room, and then the comments, and I made the mistake of reading the comments. And the comments underneath it broke my heart, because my dad used to race stock cars at El Cajon Speedway. Like, we came from a family of stock car racer. I've lived this life. I know the cars. I know the adjustments. Do I know broadcast yet? Probably not. I was 21 years old. But in the hire, I got the call. I didn't go to NASCAR and say, hey, you should put me on Fox Sports for the K&N series. I got the call, and no one turns down the call. So when I read that, I just remember feeling my heart break, because the comments underneath it were another pretty face, another girl who only got hired because of how she looks, like former Miss Sprint Cup. And I went into that first show, and I was terrible. I was terrible in my first show, and
it just destroys your confidence.
Well, and I think too, it was just so damaging to the momentum that I had built, because I was always, everyone saw me as the nice girl. I was always so nice. I'm a nice girl. But it was so hard to go into it and have everyone think, well, she's just the nice girl. And so I did the season. I wasn't great in it by any means.
And it doesn't feel good when people are saying that you just got the job because of your looks, not because of your merit.
Yeah, and it's hard to take that, because I did come from a family of stock car racers. I do know how to put the cars together for the most part.
You work hard at what you do.
And at the time, I agree. It was a premature casting, but they most certainly underestimated me. And then after that season, the series went to NBC. And NBC decided to bring in a male who was more qualified for the position, whom I love. And we're still good friends to this day. But I remember after that season concluded, NASCAR Productions came back to me and said, hey, we have some of these projects. We really want you to do this and that. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. It was just such a hard season. And it wasn't because I didn't feel like I succeeded in it. I just knew that when I saw my shows, they weren't as good as Chris Devota's or Jamie Little's or all of these women who had been doing it for the last 20 years.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. But what I told them is I said, I'm going to go get my reps in somewhere else. And I'm going to do it where I'm not on the big stage and no one can say I'm TNA. And I'm going to go pay my dues, because at this point, having this platform is not worth the criticism that I'm receiving. So I hid myself. I went to Michigan for 2 years. I worked in a newsroom. I pulled the 4 a.m. to, like, whenever you turn on the morning news and you're still waking up, I was on that newscast. And I just learned how to cover stories. And I had some great mentors there that worked with me.
Putting in the reps.
And I did it in a place where there wasn't as much judgment, and I wasn't in the middle of the sports that I love, having people say she's not saying things the right way. But it was the best thing. And to anyone who's pursuing broadcast, I say start in a small newsroom, go and get your reps in a place where they won't haunt you forever.
Yeah.
So I went to Michigan for 2 years, and a year into being in Michigan, I got a call from Feld Entertainment and Michael Prince, and he said, hey, weren't you doing motorsports? And I said, yeah, I took myself out of that world for a little bit. And he said, I want you to come do arena cross for us.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay. So at that point, my first year of arena cross, I worked 7 days a week because I was still under contract with the local news, and I didn't want to give it up because I actually really did enjoy covering baseball and football and all the traditional sports. But I was working 7 days a week. I'd fly out Friday as soon as the broadcast ended at noon, and I'd fly into wherever we had an arena cross on Saturday, and then I'd take the red eye back Saturday night or first thing Sunday morning, and then I'd be back in the newsroom at 4 a.m. on Monday, and it made me the reporter I am today. But yeah, I think there have been There have been many instances in my career where people have underestimated me, and I've had to come to the table and say, I deserve more. I'm going to fight for more. I'm going to prove to you I deserve more. But I don't hold any ill will towards the people who did underestimate me, because
I mean, nobody knows what they're doing when they're first starting out.
No,
I
you
didn't.
don't.
When I was starting my career, I didn't know what I was doing. And
Yeah.
you figure it out along the way. The difference is, like, I never had people like saying that I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So like, if that's one thing that really sucks. Like, it doesn't limit you, but it sucks being like a female in certain industries that like people automatically judge you or like criticize you, when like I wouldn't get that same treatment. I could go in and fake it till I make it and then just continue doing what I love.
Yeah. But then also it's sometimes a good card in your pocket too, because I know that I've gotten lucky and gotten certain jobs because of how I look. And listen, I'll ride that
Lean
train.
into that.
I will lean into that. I will play that card all day long. But once I get there, don't you dare underestimate me, because I know what I'm doing. I'm confident, and I don't read the comments anymore. I don't. I just don't.
What kind of advice would you give to other like women who are interested in getting into the field that you're in?
Do it for the right reasons and work hard. I think the big thing is just separating the ego from the intention, right? So do you want to do it because you want to be on TV? Because I've known many girls who want to do it because they want to be on TV, and you never make it. You never make it. It's not going to work.
It's just like if you want to start a business because you want a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You got to do it because you're passionate about it. And then the money will come with the passion. But then also I think there are so many women who want these jobs. There are also other good women who are passionate about it, and you have to put in the work. And I think you have to also do it the right way, right? So like, be a good person, be easy to work with. There are so many times I carry the camera for my RF camera operator because I notice his shoulder hurts, and I'm like, hey, hand me your camera. I got it. And like, I'll joke around and do, dumbbell curls with them. But it's because I want to be a good team player, and because I see people, and going back to what I think Saloma does beautifully is he shows compassion in every space he walks into. And I try to be mindful of that.
Treating people well.
Treat people well, because you never know. I mean, there's been so many times I've had a field producer that I've worked with in the past, and they call me 5 years later and they're like, hey, I'm on this show, I'm producing now. Do you want to come do it? That's how you get most of your opportunities, by being a good person. And
relationships are everything.
Relationships are everything. How you treat other people, how you work with other people. So, and that's not to say you should be a doormat. Like, you don't need to be walked all over, but you should treat people with respect. There's a nice happy in between place.
Yeah. Having authenticity, a genuine curiosity and passion for what you're covering and doing, treating people well, and that'll take you far.
I think so.
Have you reached your goals with commentating, or is there still things that you're reaching to achieve?
If tomorrow, for some reason, it all came to an end, which after a couple layovers and a long season, there have been times I've contemplated it and said, you know what, it's time. But if it were to all come to an end, I would be satisfied, because I've checked every box and beyond that I ever thought I would ever check in broadcast. To me, I mean, being able to travel the world, to cover sports and athletes that I love and that I'm friends with, I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed.
Yeah.
There are 2 boxes I have left. And I'm not going to say them, because if I don't check them, y'all will be really disappointed. And we'll see if I ever get the opportunity to check them, but I'm working towards them. And I think that's part of it too. We're all a work in progress. So I still work with a broadcast coach, and I still get advice from people in the industry from every walk of life. I talk to producers, I talk to videographers, I talk to directors, I talk to promoters and marketers, and I ask, hey, is there anything I can do differently next year and next season? Because I want to be better, and I really genuinely want to check those boxes. And I'm really thankful, because one of those boxes I think we could be checking in the next 6 months, and that's really exciting. And if I can do that, I might be able to say I'm satisfied, but I also still really love what I'm doing.
Right.
And, it's being able to see the sport grow, just even in the last 5 years. It's so inspiring, and it makes you want to just push full steam ahead, because it's like you see the fans growing, you see these rivalries developing, you see this platform of opportunity for storytelling, and I'm just literally chomping at the bit to be able to tell those stories. So, I mean, I haven't checked every box, but I'm close.
That's cool. Yeah, it has been cool to see the sport the motorsports grow. I mean,
Yeah.
especially like motocross, supercross, just the way they've kind of changed the structure of the sport, and like
Mhm.
there's all these new riders coming up and new rivalries.
And there's now a playoff system and a beautiful
Yeah.
relationship with the outdoors and Supercross that I thought in my lifetime I'd never see. And being able to really scale the sport even domestically in a way where we're seeing new fans. I mean, for the longest time when I was in college, if I tried to explain to my friends what Supercross was, they'd say, "Oh, like Travis Pastrana,"
Yeah.
But
Do
now
backflips?
you cover the people with doing the black flips, and you're like, yeah. But now we're seeing this great tidal wave of interest, and I think in part due to social media, but also we have these really just interesting people in the sport now with Hayden Deegan and Jet and Hunter, and then you've got the guys like Eli and Cooper and Ken, and you have this great old guard and new guard, and it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in the sport over the next 5 years. And you have such dynamic personalities and so many different facets, and it's like I'm really excited to see how they continue to grow the sport through these characters.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah, and I love what you said too about your career and just life being like a work in progress.
Yeah.
And like no matter how far you take something, you can always improve. And like
Yeah.
if you maintain that passion for what you're doing and that curiosity and that interest in like becoming better at what you do, it's just so enjoyable because you
Yeah.
always have something to work toward, and improvement feels good, and like you can always improve.
Oh, 100%. And I think too, life is,
A work in progress.
and it's also such an overlooked facet of who we are, right? Because like you have work, you have success, you have all these different things that we're always juggling. But like life, and in the last maybe 4 years, I think my husband and I have both had this moment where we sat back and we're like, okay, life, like what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the I think maybe fork in the road moments for us both was when he left Oakland for Baltimore. We both had a really interesting conversation regarding what we wanted to do now that we were kind of in this position where we felt secure in baseball. And very important to me and to him was taking time to give back. And we ended up partnering with All Kids Bike, which is an incredible organization. And they provide bikes for kids in lower income school districts. And we didn't realize that only one in every 8 what is it? One in every 8 children. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. So like 1 in every 8 kid is taught nowadays how to ride a bike. And when you look at that, it rocked our world. We're like, wait, so you're saying like if you have a class of 20 kids, only 2.5 to 3 are learning how to ride a bike? Yes, in lower income families, like that is the case nowadays. And Cole and I both like grew up well, but not like well, It's like we learned how to ride a bike, but there were also times
our generation, every kid knew how to ride a bike.
Every kid knew how to ride a bike. And so one of the things that we loved about All Kids Bike was it was providing such a dimensional service to these schools, because not only is it providing kids with the opportunity to learn how to ride a bike, which most of them are already learning, but it gives them a reason and an incentive to go to school. So we're talking like kids grades 1 through 5. You don't necessarily like going to school. Things are bad at home. Like you're going there to get a free lunch, but it gives them something to look forward to in between math and science. And it's an incentive for them to do well in school. And so like you provide this program to these local schools, and not only are they teaching the kids, but it's a part of their PE and their physical education. And then at the end of the program, they walk away with a way to a way of transportation. They walk away with confidence, fun hobby. So we sponsored 4 schools now with the All Kids Bike program. And that was huge for us, as like going into Baltimore and reaching these kids. And then
that's cool.
We also, when Cole left for Korea this year, we partnered with FCA, which is Federation of Christian Athletes. And Cole has worked with the Korea branch of that to provide baseball camps for underprivileged kids in South Korea to where they can learn how to play baseball. And like that was our big thing. It's like if we get to a point in our careers and our lives where we are able to do this, like we want to
give back.
Yeah. So that's been a big, I think for us, motivating factor in continuing to do what we do because it provides us with such a great platform for partnership. So like Cole could probably retire tomorrow and be happy, but we'd lose that platform that he has to be able to do good. And I think that's really what's motivating him at this stage of his career is like, if I keep playing, I can keep doing more good for people. And it's
That
super
adds
cool.
so much like richness to your life too. Like
Right?
giving back to people. What made you guys want to work with kids? There's so many different
Yeah. Well, I mean, we foster dogs too. Like we foster over
that's
50
cool.
dogs a year. So
Really?
yeah, we do.
Wow.
Our house is a zoo.
My fiance really wants to start fostering dogs, and I'm like, we've been in the middle of like moving and all kinds of stuff. She's on like a work contract right now in Arizona, and she's like sending me these dogs, like, go pick up this dog, go pick up this dog. I'm like, babe, I'm traveling right now. I can't go pick up this dog.
And listen, the fostering of dogs is not for the weak of heart because it is so hard because you will foster fail. They will get into your house and you'll be like, oh no, you're staying. You're staying forever. At this point, we have 3 forever dogs, 2 horses.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. But we've fostered horses, dogs, all the things over the last, couple years. And every year, I want to say we're close to 30 dogs fostering. I'm close to 30 dogs fostering. I give Cole credit because he does the walkies when he's home. But
that's amazing.
Again, it's like part of that life facet that you really have to acknowledge and lean into, because when you don't, then all of these other things, work, social media, everything you're doing, it doesn't mean anything, right? Unless you have that life balance.
When it's almost like too, if you're doing really well in life, it's almost a waste if you're not helping other people.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree.
Yeah. Or other beings, other animals, people. If you're not contributing like your fortune to like people who have misfortune, like
I think it keeps me sane. There are so many crazy girls I meet in this industry. So many crazy girls. And I think what really keeps me grounded and balanced and humble is coming home to a foster dog that for the last 2 years has been abused and wasn't able to eat. And it gives me this sense of gravity where I'm like, I have both my feet on the ground. This matters most in my life right now. Even, some of the kids that we mentor through, Cole's baseball program. So during the off season, he works with a local church that brings kids from South Charlotte up and coaches them, Power Cross Ministries. And when Cole comes home and tells me these stories about these kids that like the only meal they ate that day was at the Power Cross camp, I'm like, this is so much bigger than what we're doing tomorrow. We're going to go to Costco. We're going to get a bunch of Uncrustables. I'm going to bring them out and like just give them to the kids at the camp. And like you also then follow a lot of these kids that he's coaching. And it's so cool to see them now playing high school ball. And it's like that, I think, keeps me sane because you can get so caught up.
Things that don't matter.
In this life, you can get so caught up in trying to be the best reporter there is, trying to have more social media followers, trying to be, the girl that everyone likes when she goes on TV. You can get so caught up in that, you lose yourself. So we try to really create a great work-life balance, and we do that by giving back. It keeps me sane.
I love that. That's so beautiful and inspiring to me as well. It makes me
want to foster a dog.
Yeah,
do it. Tell your fiance we are team foster the dog.
Yeah. Oh damn, Kristen convinced me.
Yeah, just invest in potty pads, dog diapers. That has been my saving grace. We do foster a lot of dogs, and most of them when they come in are not potty trained. And I'll try to train them, but like you got to have the dog diapers on hand because if not, your couch is going to get ruined.
I have a dog who's 13 years old or 12 years old now.
So you live diaper life.
He's got diaper life.
Yeah.
So.
we unfortunately just lost Rocky, who was my 13-year-old Yorkie 2 years ago, but he was full on diaper life. But because of Rocky, like that's what kind of inspired us to start doing more with fostering. Like we fostered 3 or 4 a year ever since even when we were dating. But in the last couple of years, I was like, we're doing this. My dream is to create a dog like foster camp at our house someday. Right. So like we're going to have, it'd be so great.
Have like a whole setup for them and have
a little motocross track over here. Everyone can come moto and then come over and adopt a dog. Like I have this great business plan right up in here.
Have you ever seen that dog ranch in Costa Rica?
Yes.
That place is wild. There's like 1,000 dogs.
Yeah.
There.
And then you can go and like walk with them in the hills and stuff.
Yeah. I want to go
cool.
there sometime.
I know.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love this mission of like giving back and adding love back into the world. That's so amazing. When you think about years from now, like when people look back at your work and your legacy, what kind of like thoughts and emotions do you think do you want people to have when they think about your legacy?
Ooh, I've never even considered having a legacy. I guess because I've always considered myself as the mic holder and not the talker. I guess it's hard to think about what legacy I'd leave behind. But I hope with all of the women I've mentored and all of the great connections I've made in the community, we've created, I hope that people are more encouraged and feel more comfortable entering the sport, right? Because you never want to create a sport where people don't feel like they could immediately be a part of it, the next day. So I think the big thing is like, oh gosh, I don't know. I've never even really thought about my legacy.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I just want to...
Because you're still in it. You're still in this work in progress. You're not thinking about when it's over. But
and I'm not even like, I've never even considered myself being someone anyone would look to and be like, wow, like she left a legacy behind. But I guess...
Think about how you described Jenny Taft.
I mean,
like that's hope, you for other people.
Well, I hope that like if someone looks at what I do, they'll think back and say like, Kristen, when she did this, was a light. Like she was a light in the paddock. People enjoyed talking to her. Like, I mean, last week, Briar Bauman lost, I think, what is the hardest championship of his career because they went to a new bike this year, an untested bike with the Harley Davidson, and he was leading the points on day 2. There's only one race remaining in the season, like at the Ozarks for the championship. And 3 laps in, his bike just started spitting oil and smoking. And in American flat track, you get black flagged because it's
dangerous.
So dangerous. So he pulls off, and it's, in moments like that, I remember putting my mic over here because I didn't want the truck to hear it. I remember telling my camera, I said, go around. I just went over and I gave him a big hug and I started crying with him. And like, I don't take pride in moments like that necessarily because that's not what you're supposed to do as a journalist, but I'm not a journalist, like I'm Kristen. And that's what I'm going to do is because I know in that moment, like he didn't need me to rush over and say, oh, what are the emotions? I'm losing the championship. He needed a hug. And I think sometimes too, like my impact in the sport, I would hope would be greater than the questions I asked, but who I was off the camera, because at the end of the day, that matters more. And like, I know in that moment, he had to come to us. We were TV. He has to pull the bike over. We have to get the interview, but he needed a hug before he needed that. And I think that allowed him to accept the moment more gracefully than otherwise.
Well, you truly are a light in the sport. And I really feel that way. And like, we need personalities like you. And I think I'm really grateful that I had the chance to talk to you today. And, thank you for making time for me and doing what you do.
Right down the road, it ended up working out perfect. You've got such a great little setup here. And I hope you know, too, like I watched the interview with Salema, and and even with Vicky now, I've like watched some, and I think showcasing the athletes in the way you do is much needed in the sport because it's not salacious. Like it's coming with a genuine curiosity. It's very authentic. And there is a space that you are filling in the sport that previously like we didn't have. And so thank you for doing what you do. It's so cool. Like
I want to get beyond just like the sport element, and I want to like dive into like the human and like
we're very similar in that.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
Yeah, you're a little more seasoned than I am. I come from a storytelling background as like a creative behind the scenes of a magazine. Not so much as like an interviewer.
But like what I love about podcasts is it's so forgiving, like, and it's so natural, and it's so just like, hey, let's talk about something that's meaningful to you. Like that's, and I
if you want to, and then if it's like uncomfortable, then we'll move on.
Yeah, like I love it for what you're doing, and it's like it's cool to see. Even like Vicky's, like I loved how she was able to talk about creating a space for women.
Yeah,
I was like, that's so Vicky. And like, we don't always get to see that side of Vicky. We see like Vicky, like we don't see.
She's so dialed in.
Yeah. We don't see that really compassionate, like beautiful side of Vicky as often, but I've seen it because I'm around her often.
Back to the relationships, I've known Vicky for like 15 years now. So like,
she's so encouraging and she's so cool. And like, we don't know. And you brought that out of her.
Yeah. It's when you can gain trust from these people through the relationships you have. That's when the magic happens. So.
I think so too.
Yeah. But thank you, Kristen. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I hope I gave you a couple quotables in there.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. I want to give a shout out to a really special partner of mine. I've been working with 805 Beer for close to a decade now. And honestly, it's more than just a beverage company to me. It's a symbol of a lifestyle that I believe in. 805 was born on the central coast of California, the 805, a place where life moves to the rhythm of surf, moto, music, and open roads. Whether you're out riding, jamming with friends, or just soaking in the last light of the day, 805 is right there with you. It's not about hype, it's about living fully and embracing every moment. But what makes 805 truly special is their commitment to sustainability. They've been brewing for generations and relentlessly focused on preserving the land that they call home, conserving water, reducing waste, and protecting what matters, the land where we live and play. They support the raddest events and the sickest athletes. But most importantly, they support the culture. That's why 805 has become a staple in my life.